Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Gameday Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host Sean Colangelo, joined as always by the man I envy the most in the wintertime, Todd from Florida. What's up, Brotosynthesis?
Not much, man. Not much. How's it going over there?
Rainy. Um,
Rainy?
Cold and rainy. Well, it's actually not too terribly cold, but um, it is technically March now, though, so hopefully we are just about done with this crappy weather. But
Yeah, we have our AC on, if that tells you anything.
Jesus. Um, yeah, I mean, you know how it is up here. It'd be nice throughout March, and then it'll like snow in April again or something. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear you.
so, uh, between the Olympics and the NHL trade deadline, there is a crap ton of news in the hockey world.
It is,
So
yes.
prior to that, just wanted to kind of a quick condensed version of what you have for the NFL and NBA. So
Alright,
fire away.
we'll start with the NBA. Minnesota has lost Jimmy Butler indefinitely. He was obviously, one of the guys they got from the trade with Chicago recently. I think last year sometime. Might have been in the offseason. I don't remember when that went down. But that's going to hurt for them because they're sitting in third place in the West and trying to make a push deep for the playoffs. Hopefully he gets back for them because they definitely are going to need him. Um, Only other thing I saw going on in the NBA, I don't know if you saw anything about this because I know you don't follow basketball, but the Zaza incident with Russell Westbrook.
The what?
Sorry, Golden State. Golden State was playing Oklahoma City earlier this week.
Okay.
Zaza Pachulia, who is kind of a known goon in the basketball world. Um,
His name is Zaza.
his name is Zaza, yes.
Where is
He
he
is obviously
from?
foreign. I think he's got to be from some Eastern European country. I don't know which one.
Huh.
I would
Okay.
guess like something like that.
Interesting.
But he fell purposely on top of Westbrook while Westbrook was on the ground.
Okay.
Westbrook wasn't hurt, luckily, but I mean he fell into his legs, kind of, and it was clearly on purpose. Like if you watch it, he's standing completely straight up, knows exactly what he's doing, looks down, sees Westbrook, and then just falls out of nowhere. It's almost comical looking when he does it. But it looked like he was trying to either land on his leg or like his knee or his ankle to hurt him, and it's not getting a lot of good press. I know a lot of guys on ESPN, like the Stephen A. Smiths, the guys like that, Skip Bayless, were lighting him up, basically calling him a hockey goon in the NBA, which is a good description. He's not a point scorer. He doesn't do anything really besides take people out. He's the one that got Kawhi Leonard hurt last year in the playoffs. Stepped
Mm.
into Kawhi was taking a jump shot, and he stepped into where he was landing, so Kawhi came down on his foot and rolled his ankle. Um, so he's in heat again from that, and I don't know if he's gonna get any kind of supplemental discipline for it or anything. But this one was obviously on purpose. Like it, you'll have to look up the video sometime because it's comical the way he just falls on purpose on top of the guy.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Over in the NFL, there was kind of a big trade this week. Marcus Peters, who was for the quarterback for Kansas City, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. I think he had something like 14 interceptions in his first like 2 years or something like that. Really good quarterback. He got traded to LA for a 2018 fourth round pick and a 2019 second round pick. A lot of people were kind of confused about this. I guess he fell out of favor with management in Kansas City, and there's some questions about work ethic, I think, things like that. But he's a heck of a quarterback, and he got traded for pretty much nothing. Um, kind of a weird thing to happen to go down. LA immediately got better in their secondary, and they didn't have to give up really anything for it. So LA made a good move there, but just don't know what's going on with Kansas City between the Alex Smith trade and Marcus Peters being out too.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
a couple other big name guys that are either have moved or going to be on the move. The Jets cut Muhammad Wilkerson. He was, I think, a third overall pick a couple years back, like 5 or 6. It's not recent, but he was a really good defensive end for him, and I guess he's fallen off. I haven't followed the Jets that much lately because they're the Jets and they're not entertaining to watch. But
What do you mean?
I I mean, sorry, I don't.
I'm just
I
kidding.
don't like watching Jets football.
I don't
Um,
think most people do.
I don't think Jets fans like watching Jets football. Um, Outside of that, Colts are not bringing Frank Gore back either. They're looking at a youth movement at running back. Frank Gore is like 30 something, 34, 35 up there.
Ooh,
Uh,
damn, that is old
pretty,
for a halfback.
pretty
Yeah.
old to be a running back, yeah.
Jesus.
He'll probably play somewhere else. I doubt he'll be the starting running back, but he'll probably be like a second back kind of guy that comes in.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I don't know where, but the Colts are going to move on. They're going to run with Marlon Mack, who was their draft pick from last year, running back. They're probably going to draft another one this year or sign somebody in the offseason, too. Last piece of news after the NFL, Ryan Shazier has confirmed he will not play in 2018. I don't really think that's much of a surprise given what he's going through. But it still kind of sucks to see because obviously this means it's going to be a very long-term rehabilitation for him.
Man, I don't think he's ever going to play again. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know the extent of the. I mean, obviously it's not good. Whatever it is,
even if he recovers enough to be able to come back and play, it's still hard to have to rehab from an injury that's more than a year and come back and be in, good enough at the game still to play at a pro level. Look at Bridgewater over in Minnesota as an example of that. He couldn't even get the job back from Case Keenum when he came back. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much a quick rundown of what I got for any news outside of hockey. It's a little bit slow outside of the realm of hockey, but hockey had a pretty busy deadline, all things considered. So
It did. Before that, I wanted to
mm-hmm.
touch base real quick with the Olympics. So, Team Germany.
Yeah, I wouldn't have called that one.
Dude,
Even with the depleted American and Canadian rosters, I would not have called Team Germany making it to the silver medal.
it sucks because they were right there. Like, were they not? They were actually
up by a goal late in the third. I don't know how late.
They were
I didn't actually watch
they
it.
were up by a goal late in the third on the power play, and
Yep.
conceded a shorthanded tying goal. And then I know, and then Russia won in overtime.
Now I will say this:
God,
I called
that sucks.
from the start of this tournament that Russia was going to win gold, and I was right.
Well,
So,
yeah, I think everybody. I mean, it was it was hard to bet against them. I mean, they were for sure they had the most talent because of all of the like
KHL players.
Yeah,
like that, yeah.
But man, freaking Germany had it. They had them beat, and they give up a shorty. That sucks.
Yeah.
That's just brutal.
That's crazy, man. I know one of our Pens guys, Kuhnhackl, is one of the few German players in the NHL, and I know he was particularly interested in that game.
Yeah, well, you know what?
He played for Germany in the Olympics when the last time the NHL players were allowed to play. So
I don't know if it was that or you know what I think it was. It was about a year and a half ago. He scored the winning goal in the qualifying game that got them into the Olympics.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So that's pretty cool. I'm just gonna say, as a Pens fan, Kuhnhackl was there, they win it. But
well, I mean, considering that they gave it up on a penalty, or actually it was a power play, not a penalty kill. Sorry, other way around. I was gonna say if they were penalty killing, you probably would help them out, but
yeah. Well, but then again, on that team, he'd probably be like their leading scorer. So, but anyway, so that sucks for Team Germany, but not really surprising that Russia won.
Yeah.
We, like you said, we kind of knew that was probably going to happen. So.
Oh yeah. Just you could look at the rosters and pretty much tell that was going to be the case. I find it crazy that they needed overtime to beat Team Germany on a team that had Kovalchuk and Datsuk.
Yeah, they shouldn't have.
Is like almost 40, so his play might be declining. Kovalchuk's getting up there too, but still.
And you know what else crazy is? I mean, they beat Canada on their way to Russia, so
Yeah, Canada's roster wasn't great this year either, though.
Well, right, right.
I mean, you got to figure Canada was hit just as hard as America by the NHL ban. I mean,
Probably harder, actually. But
probably to be honest with you, but I mean, those are two rosters that are pure NHL players. On other years when NHL players are allowed to go, so
yeah,
you know, at least Russia, most. I mean, it is NHL players mostly, but they had a couple guys from the KHL the last couple times they had it. So I mean, Kovalchuk's always been there. Datsuk has been there. I mean, he was in the NHL before, but he's played that before. So
right. Yeah, but that's really all that went down in the Olympics.
yeah, yep.
Would have been nice to
Um,
see the Germans pull it off, but they seemed like they were pretty content with the silver medal, though. So,
how would you not be, dude? Considering
yeah,
they had to win a game to even be able to go to
yeah,
the Olympics. That would have been the underdog story, probably the biggest one since the Miracle on Ice.
right.
If they had pulled that off, and obviously it would have been funny that it was against Russia again, um, but yeah, it was definitely entertaining. It was cool to see an underdog team like that in, especially given the fact that we knew Canada and America probably didn't have a chance with it. So all in all, it was a good tournament. About the best you could ask for with not having the NHL, talent there to make it as entertaining in terms of watch talent wise. So,
Yeah, the show.
um,
But anyway, that was really about it. I know you probably have a good bit because of the trade deadline in the NHL.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm gonna
lay it
run
on
through
me.
the bigger trades there. We'll talk about who got what and what deals, and try to break down who won each deal, kind of thing. Before we go into that, though, the only piece of big news I found outside of the trade deadline was Boston has lost Bergeron for at least 2 weeks, probably longer. He has a broken right foot. Um,
Well,
that's gonna hurt, considering they're pushing Tampa for first in the Atlantic right now.
that's good news for the Penguins tonight.
Hmm. It certainly is. Bergeron, he's not as much of a point scorer as some of the other stars out there, but I mean he's easily the best two-way forward in the game. I don't think there's really any question about it. Um, and he plays huge minutes for him, so that's gonna be a tough one to recover from.
Yeah.
But let's talk about something else involving Washington or Boston while we get into the trade deadline. First trade I want to cover: Rick Nash to Boston.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this one. I heard rumors about it, but I still thought Nash would go back to Columbus, to be honest with you. Um, but the Bruins get Rick Nash from the Rangers. They send the Rangers Ryan Spooner and Matt Bolesky, which was a cap dump. He was playing in the minors. A defensive prospect in Ryan Lindgren, and their 2018 first round pick and seventh round picks to New York.
Man.
Who you
I
got
don't
as a
know.
winner in this one?
Uh, I would say the Rangers, wouldn't you? I mean, they.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Boston loses that much. I mean, you got to figure their draft pick is going to be a low one. They're probably going to make a deep run in the playoffs.
That's true.
So it's going to be a bottom five pick in the draft probably. Seventh round pick is what it is. The odds of them playing any time in the NHL is next to none. Bolesky was a cap dump, like I said. So realistically, they lost Lindgren and Spooner for Nash and their first
Yeah.
round pick. So,
Um.
um,
Man.
I know they weren't big on Spooner. I mean, he's kind of been having a little bit of a resurgent year as their third line center, but the organization wasn't big on him. That's the biggest pickup I think for the Rangers, is because he's young, he's a center. Obviously, you always need more of those. He can play third line and fourth line center for them pretty much for the next couple years coming up. And Lindgren looks like he's going to be a decent prospect. So that's a big haul for the Rangers to get for Nash, who they probably weren't going to re-sign at the end of the year anyway. I don't think there's any way the Rangers don't come out of winners in this trade. It's just how bad did Boston lose it. I don't think they lost it that bad in terms of all things considered. But
Yeah, it's a little perplexing to me. Like, you know what it almost kind of reminds me of is when they went out and got David Backes. Um,
Well, they
just in,
signed him in free agency. They didn't trade for him, but yeah.
okay. And I have to look at back at his numbers. I assume they're not insane, but I assume they're not terrible. Um, but just these players are usually pretty big guys. A lot of like power forwards.
Yeah, it seems to be
Which
Boston style, doesn't it?
it does seem to be their style, dude. But at the same time, I think they've been having such a good year, almost because of taking the route the Penguins have for the past few years with these young fast players, and like we're seeing the same thing, with the Devils.
Oh yeah.
They've largely, you know, um, transformed their style, like rather than pretty much, you know, sitting back in a, you know, like 1-3-1 or 2-1-2 trap or something like that, and like
Hmm.
winning a 2-1 game. I mean, they're actually a pretty good, like fast young scoring team, and I feel like that it's
Yeah,
been
but getting
somewhat
a
the
guy like
same.
Taylor Hall definitely helped that transition for them.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure. But I feel like it's been kind of the same thing in Boston. Like, you have Marchand, you have Pasternak, you have a lot of other young players that have just played well, largely because they're just like young, fast guys. So I don't really get it. I mean, I know. I mean, he'll obviously be kind of a rental, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think
for
they're gonna
sure. I doubt he
keep him.
resigns in Boston.
Um, and I mean, I guess realistically, if you can kind of meld those two styles of like being able to be a, speed and skill team with also some, you know, you know, a couple of bruisers, I guess that might not be such a bad thing. But I don't know. I guess push comes to shove for me. I've just never gotten a big deal with Rick Nash. I think he makes way too much money. I don't think he's that good of a player.
He hasn't been
Um,
in a while. He's not been the goal scorer he used to be in a long time.
yeah.
Um, my whole thing, the only reason that I question why Boston did this is because at the time they made this trade, some of these guys that we'll bring up in a little bit here, specifically, if they wanted, you know, high scoring forwards, they could have gone for Vanek and Kane. You know,
Yeah.
Vanek either would fit that kind of power forward, but also would be a guy that's younger and scoring better right now
Yeah.
than Rick Nash. And
I mean, I probably wouldn't have went for Vanek either. Again, I haven't seen Vanek's numbers. I mean, but I don't think I would have.
well, Vanek would have been a lot cheaper than that too.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well, okay.
A lot cheaper.
Let's compare this because I assume you're going to talk about it anyway. What did the Sharks give up for Kane?
The Sharks, let me pull up the actual trade here. They gave up a 2019 conditional first round pick and a 2019 fourth round pick. And
See,
a forward prospect who doesn't project to be really much of anything. However, that first round pick's conditional on them re signing Kane. If they don't re sign him, it becomes a second.
yeah, I don't know. I think.
And odds are
Uh,
they're not going to re sign him. So a second and a fourth for Kane.
yeah, I would have happily given that up rather than what the Bruins did for Nash. And I think
Now,
Kane would.
would the price have been the
Yeah.
same for Buffalo trading inside their division to Boston? Maybe not. That does come into play.
It does come into play, but it's not like the Sabres are contending with the Bruins for
True.
the playoffs. So I mean, it might have been a little more steep, but even still, I mean, I would have traded what they gave up for Kane way before, or I'm sorry, what they gave up for Nash. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like they
Yeah.
probably could
At the
have
price
gotten
that they
Kane.
got San Jose got Kane for, they
Yeah.
could have got that for cheaper than what they gave it for Nash, and Kane's a better player than Nash in my opinion.
Yes, for
So
sure.
I don't
Now,
I don't know about that, but
I know when we talked about that when it first happened, my first comment was, well, Kane's like a known, you know, locker room, you know, he's been on two teams that where he's established a reputation of not being a good locker room guy, so maybe that's why the Bruins didn't pursue that.
Possibly.
We don't know. We don't know.
Possibly.
But I don't know. It just that's an awful lot for Rick Nash, who he really hasn't had a good year in a good while. But
I hear you.
well, we'll see.
And he generally disappears in the playoffs too. That's another thing to bring up.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Let's cover one that's particularly interesting to us. This one was one of the earlier deals. It happened before the actual deadline day, but it involves the Penguins. The Penguins got the best center on the market, Derek Brassard. This was a complicated one.
Yeah, very.
I know the league actually shut it down once and made him reorganize it, but the end result, the Pens get Brassard, Vincent Dunn, Tobias Lindberg, and a 2018 third-round pick from Ottawa. Dunn and Lindberg are forward prospects. Lindberg might end up making the team in a couple years, but it's not like a huge prospect. Dunn's probably never going to get past the AHL. That was probably a contract number move, to be honest with you. Ottawa ends up getting Ian Cole from us, who they flipped to Columbus for a third on draft day.
Yeah,
on deadline day. So
that one stinks.
And they get goalie prospect Philip Gustafsson, who looks like he's going to be a pretty good goalie. They're calling him the Swedish Carey Price.
Okay.
So, and then a 2018 first-round pick and a 2019 third-round pick from Pittsburgh. Vegas comes into this deal somehow because they ended up taking 40% of Brassard's salary for us for the next 2 years that he signed, which let him fit into our cap. And he was only making, he was a $5 million cap hit. He's now a $3 million cap hit on 3C, which is perfect. That's right what the Pens want to pay a 3C is around $3 million. In return, Vegas got Ryan Reeves and a 2018 fourth-round pick.
Yep.
Let's talk about this one. Obviously, the Pens get immediately better down the center. They started this year with, obviously, Sid and Malkin, which are two of the best centers in the league. Probably two of the top 5 centers in the league, easily.
Yes.
But behind that, they had Carter Rowney and Greg McKegg.
Right. Wasn't pretty.
That's bad. They've turned that in the span of a year to the deadline into Sid Gino, Derek Brassard, and Riley Sheahan, which the only team I can think of that might have a better center core is Nashville down the middle. And Nashville, I mean, they might have a deeper in terms of their fourth line center might be better than Sheahan, but Johansson and Turris aren't Malkin and Crosby. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I'm a little torn on this one. I don't think it was a bad trade by any means. I just have to wonder, I guess if they, I don't know, like it's a good trade, but I feel like it almost simultaneously solves and further complicates the problems with their lineup. Just in the sense that, like, Riley Sheahan was actually playing pretty well, as the 3C. And, yeah, a lot of that probably was because he had Phil Kessel on his wing. Yeah. But, now that you have him on the fourth line, in theory, you're like, well, he's probably the best fourth line center in the league. The problem is the other two guys on that line aren't Phil Kessel and Jake Gensel.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think it was a bad trade. I mean, when you consider what they gave up, which on one hand it was a lot, but it was all things that they didn't really need. Aside from I guess maybe Cole. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the fan base losing their minds.
Quite frankly, the biggest loss they had from that trade in terms of affecting their current roster was Cole, without a doubt. And that's because I'm not a big fan of Hunwick playing in that lineup spot. But they still have Hunwick and Ruedel, so they have 7D, and plus, I mean, they have Andre Padon down in the minors. They have other guys that can come up if they need to. So, um,
Yeah.
if Hunwick continues to be this much of a problem, there's ways to get around it.
Yeah, it's just they seemed like they were playing. I mean, I mean, their record since the new year has been. I mean, they were on a tear.
Mm-hmm.
They won. They won. I think it was 11 home games in a row.
Yep.
Shahan was working. You know, really well on that third line, and Ian Cole was actually playing his best hockey of the season. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like, to me right now, it feels like they kind of tampered with something that was working, and it's like, I understand why they did it, but it's just like almost in a way trying to fix what wasn't broken. But obviously, they did need to get like a true 3C.
Yeah.
Realistically, they got a guy who's more like a 2C. Um,
Yeah. So here's where I come in with this trade. I, I hear what you're saying in terms of the Pens were on a tear. Why would they make changes to the lineup? But that lineup right there, that the way it was running, was a Sid or a Gino injury away from being a first round sweep in the playoffs.
that's very true. Very true.
If Sid or Gino go down now, they still can slot Broussard into that second center role. Shahan goes up to the third, Rounding goes to fourth. That's still a hard team to match up against. It's obviously not as hard when Sid or Gino are there, but it's still a hard team to match up against.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, obviously you're not banking on Sid and Gino getting injured, but you want to have something in place in case something like that does happen. Losing Cole hurts, like I said, but they were going to lose Cole at the end of this year anyway. There was something going on between him and Sully. I don't know what it was, but they were not getting along, and Cole wasn't going to stay. The other stuff they gave up, the first round pick, I mean, you got to figure
No,
that's
that's
probably going to be a bottom five pick too.
no. Yeah, that's what they. I mean, that's what teams who are pursuing cups do. And then you
The
know,
third round pick is next year's, and we got one back this year, so that actually helps us
yeah,
in the
that
draft in terms of that.
that's
Um,
whatever. And
and
then
then Gustafson, Gustafson's a good prospect, but he's never going to crack the lineup with Murray and Jari. You know
no,
what I mean?
exactly. I mean,
They're both extremely young.
he's
Um,
he looks like he's going to be fantastic, but we have Jesus, as if I'm on the team. The
uh,
Penguins have,
Pens.
they have two extremely young, talented goalies who are 23 and 22 years old. They just,
Yeah,
they just didn't need them.
yeah, for sure,
So,
for sure. Um, the most interesting thing to me is why Vegas got involved with this. Supposedly they did it because Winnipeg was the other team that was heavily in on Broussard, and they wanted to keep him out of their division. Um,
yeah,
Part of me also wonders if Rutherford, when he traded Vegas or Fleury to Vegas, didn't say, "Hey, you know, kind of in the future, maybe you can have my back on something like this as part of that deal." I
it's
mean,
possible.
I does that kind of stuff happen? Theoretically, it's not supposed to, but come on, let's be real. They're human beings.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but supposedly Vegas said they got involved because they wanted to keep Broussard out of the West. But all that means is that now, the Pens have them. They could end up meeting them in the final, and Winnipeg found their center anyway. So we'll go over that here in a second. But overall, I think this is one of those trades where both teams won. The Penguins get better, and they don't just get better for this year because Broussard signed through next year too. So that gives them a 2-year window with this roster, which is a good thing. They're gonna. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if both this year and next year you see Pens Lightning in the conference final, because both of these teams are geared up for a 2-year run.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. It's like any other trade. If it works out, then he'll look like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
If not, it'll be like, oh, why did you do this? But
I don't see anything he lost in this trade where even if it doesn't work out, you can really, fault him that much. Um, like I said, Gustafson was never going to play for us, and we pretty much knew the Pens were going to trade their first round pick. They always do. They haven't picked first round since they picked Mata. So,
Right. Right.
um, but let's pass on that one and keep going because there's a couple others we want to get into. Um, when I said Winnipeg got their center, the center I'm talking about is Paul Stastny. Winnipeg
Yeah, that
acquires
was.
Paul Stastny from St. Louis in exchange for a 2018 first round pick and rights to a forward prospect, Eric Foley. Um,
Yeah, that was a random one.
well, the Blues have lost 7 games in a row. Now 8 games, I think.
Oh.
They fell off hard, really hard, to be honest with you. And they knew that it probably wasn't their year. The craziest thing to me is they traded him in the conference, and I mean in the division even.
Right. Yeah, that's. Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I guess I just didn't realize St. Louis was on that bad of a skid.
yeah, they got passed by Dallas. I think they're still in a wild card spot, but I mean they're threatening to fall out of that one. Right now, the top 3 in the Central are Winnipeg, Nashville, and Dallas.
Right. Okay.
Um, uh, but yeah, I mean they get a first round back. I think Stasny is a UFA after this year, so you know, not a bad move in terms of Winnipeg's or not St. Louis's part. It's probably going to be a low first. I don't know that it'll be as low as some of the other ones that we talked about trading. I don't know how far Winnipeg's going to go, but it'll be a bottom 16 pick for sure. It won't be a lottery pick out of that.
Yeah.
Another trade in the Central. This one surprised me even more than the Stasny trade. Nashville gets Ryan Hartman and a 2018 fifth-round pick from Chicago in exchange for a forward prospect and Victor Edsel, their first-round pick and their fourth-round pick this year. I'm not so much surprised in this one that Chicago was selling. I'm surprised of all the guys they sold Ryan Hartman because he's only 24.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a little strange as well.
I don't know about that one. I don't, and then on top of that, they sold him to Nashville in their division.
Right. Right.
I mean, Chicago's not going to make the playoffs this year. We know that. I mean, it's surprising in terms of what you would expect at the beginning of the year, but they're not going to make it this year. But Chicago's not a team that's going to be out of it for long. I mean, they could easily be back into it next year, and they just help probably one of the teams they're going to be racing against next year. Because Hartman is going
Yeah.
to re-sign with Chicago. I mean, with Nashville.
Yeah. That was another one that seemed like it was kind of out of the blue and strange, but.
Yeah. Nashville gets even deeper. I think Ryan Hartman does play center. I doubt he's going to play center on that lineup unless they kick Bonino to the wing. He'll probably end up playing a wing on with them. He's kind of a big bruiser kind of guy. Not like a Lucic level, but he's more like an Evander Kane kind of guy. He can score. He's pretty good at that, but he's also big and doesn't afraid to throw a body around. So, um, but yeah, Nashville's all in, dude. Nashville is making a run, and we'll have to see how they do come playoff time. But they could be one of the scarier teams in the West to contend with.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, we covered the Evander Kane trade, so we don't need to go back over that one. We already went through what they got. Couple smaller moves before we get into the biggest one of the deadline day, in my opinion. Patrick Maroon went from Edmonton to New Jersey for a third-round pick. That's another one that I was like, if the Bruins wanted a guy like Rick Nash, they could have got Maroon for a third, you know?
Yeah.
I don't see that much of a difference between those two players' game.
There's really not. Maroon might even be better.
Probably. Boston got Tommy Wingles from Chicago for a fifth-round pick. That's a depth move. I mean, he'll probably play fourth line for him. Not a huge deal there. Columbus gets Thomas Vanek from Vancouver, and the craziest part to me is all Vancouver got back was a Tyler Mott, who was a decent forward prospect, probably a bottom 6 guy in a couple years, and Jussi Jokinen, who was just on the waiver.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Didn't even get a pick back. That's crazy to me. I mean, I feel like Vanek could have at least got you a second, right?
Yeah, you think.
And with the prices people were going for at that deadline. I don't know what they're doing there. They must have really liked Tyler Mott's game and wanted him in the lineup, but I don't know. That's a crazy one to me. Um, this one is one that I don't like in terms of the team that bought. Vegas gets Thomas Tatar from the Red Wings in exchange for a 2018 first, 2019 second, and 2021 third.
Yeah, that seems like a little much for
Tatar
Tatar.
he's not a rental. He's signed for a good while. If you give me 1 second, I'll tell you how long. But that is a lot to give up, and especially for a team like Vegas, who they've only had one draft, man. Their prospect pool is nothing. Um, Now he's signed for 4 more years, and he's probably going to play out all those years with Vegas. So, you know, take that for what it is. That's probably more important to you now than a prospect would be. But that many picks, I mean, obviously the only one from this draft is the 2018 first. That one's going to end up being low, and I think they have a couple other first-round picks from the deadline or from the expansion deals they made.
Right.
So, that might not come back to hurt them that much, but Vegas isn't a team that needs to be selling future picks, even if they are having success right now, because they got to get that prospect pool stocked up.
Yeah, I would agree.
So,
but yeah, I don't know. You know what I didn't realize was they have a crap ton of cap space in Vegas, don't they? Like it's a lot.
31 mil.
That's insane.
Yeah, well, you got to remember most of the guys they took aren't going to be guys that are signed on huge contracts.
Yeah.
They took a couple big ones, like Neil Clarkson, but he's on IR. Same thing with Grabowski. Their highest paid player only makes 5.3, and that is Tatar now. So, I mean, when you have 5.75 for Fleury too. I forgot about that one, but they have a lot of young guys on the cheap contracts, and they had a ton of space. So, honestly, I think the reason they made this move is to make a deep playoff run and then attract guys in the free agency because they're going to be spenders. They're going to have a lot of money to spend in free agency.
That's a good point. I think, yeah, I mean they could land some big. I gotta wonder if they might be pursuing John Tavares. I mean, I don't know if he's gonna leave, but
yeah, I would think they would. I don't think Tavares would go there. I think if he's going to go somewhere, I think St. Louis is a big one that would be pursuing him.
yes,
especially with moving Stasny now. I already.
Yeah, my cat's in right here.
I don't think the Islanders are going to let Tavares go, especially with the fact that they just re-signed Bailey too, not too long ago. So.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, the last trade we're going to cover is the big one from the deadline day. You know which one I'm talking about. Tampa Bay gets Ryan McDonough and JT Miller from New York in exchange for Vladislav Nemestikov, defensive prospect Libor Hadjic, forward prospect Brett Howden, who was their first-round pick, I think, last year, a 2018 first-round pick, and a 2019 conditional first. That first becomes a second if they don't win the cup in the next 2 years. So.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that because Nemestikov is going to be an RFA.
He is. So is JT Miller.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I mean, I guess kind of a trade for trade. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, McDonough is huge for them. Say what you want about Ryan McDonough, but Ryan McDonough on most teams in the league is a top 2 defenseman. I can't really picture many teams, maybe outside of Nashville, and that's pretty much it. That I don't think he would be a top 2 defenseman on the team in terms of your second most talented defenseman.
Yeah.
That's a huge move for Tampa. He's signed for 2 years, so this is a prolonged push. They do have to re-sign JT Miller, but like you said, they were going to have to re-sign Nemestikov too. That's kind of a lateral move. I think they just like JT Miller's game a little bit more than Nemestikov's. So they tried to get that move in there. In terms of what they paid, 2 prospects, but we all know that Tampa's prospect pool is pretty crazy, and they have a ton of young players on their team right now anyway. The first round picks, those are going to be bottom three picks. I mean, I can't picture Tampa not making it to the conference finals at the very least.
Right.
Um,
I mean most people are slating it to be Tampa Pittsburgh.
yeah, I mean that wouldn't surprise me. I think Boston's going to give them a little bit more of a fit than people think if Boston
Yeah.
gets through the first. But I still think Tampa would come out on top of that. Um, I also don't have 100% confidence that Pittsburgh will make it out of the Metro because it still could be Washington. Still could be. I would be honestly Jersey's scaring me a little bit right now as
Yeah,
a team.
they look pretty good.
Philly's playing pretty good hockey too, so don't count out Philly. Um, but yeah, um, I think Tampa wins this one. I don't think New York loses it. Again, for a team that's selling, they got between Nash and McDonough and Grabner, they got I think 3 first-round picks over the next 2 drafts potentially. Obviously, the 2019 first from Tampa is contingent on them winning a cup. I'd say that's pretty good odds that it could happen, but it might not necessarily happen. Even so, they get a second if that doesn't happen. So they got Nemestikov back, who will be a roster player for them, and they get 3 pretty decent prospects too.
Yeah.
So New York made out pretty well for sellers. I mean, that's a big haul to get back for 3 guys off your roster. Well, 4 if you count JT Miller. So
Yeah, it's
uh,
you know, those trades just all seem to make a lot of sense. So
yeah. Now, in terms of teams that were quiet on deadline day that I'm kind of surprised about, I'm amazed that Dallas didn't make a move, given that they're making a pretty big push up the standings and they could use a
yeah,
defenseman.
yeah, that was a little
Um,
weird.
I'm also amazed that Philly didn't make any trades, man. Um,
Well, I
Philly
mean,
is
they'd already
second in
gotten
the conference or in
Mrazek,
the division right now.
but
Well, yeah, besides Mrazek. I'm surprised they didn't make a trade for, like a defense. Well, I don't know. Actually, I gotta be honest, outside of the Philly games for Pittsburgh, I haven't watched a ton of Philly games this year, so I don't really know what they need. But,
well, theoretically they need. Well, I mean, they got like an interim goalie, but theoretically they need defense because on paper their defense is not good. But they must be overachieving right about now. That's all I gotta
um,
say.
they get a pretty decent defense. I mean, they've got Provorov, they've got Gostisbehere, um, and they've got 2
It's
pretty good prospects
not
with
terrible, but you know,
they could use a veteran defenseman. I think, in my opinion.
yeah,
McDonough would have been a good one for them, but that's probably a little bit too pricey for what they wanted to give up. I don't think they're that confident in them making a deep run right now. Um, but they have a ton of prospects coming up too, so maybe they're just kind of biding their time and saying, hey, if we do well this year, cool, but we're building for the future more so than we are right now. So,
right.
um, but that's pretty much the trade deadline. There were a couple other moves, but they were all involved, guys that are minor names, fourth liners or AHLers. I'm not going to go over every single trade because that would take probably 2 hours. But
Yeah, take too long.
yeah,
um, all right. Well, yeah, it was. It seemed like it was a lot more active than usual. But I was looking at a stat that said it was right about what it usually is. Like in terms
yeah.
of like the
I was
amount of
watching the
trades and
coverage at work, to be honest with you, and they were complaining about how slow it was for the longest time. A lot of those trades happened right at 3 at the deadline.
yeah,
And most of them got reported after the deadline. The McDonough trade got reported after the deadline. The Kane deal got reported after the deadline. The Tatar deal got reported after the deadline. So a lot of the movement happened and then there were a lot of trades that happened. Like the Nash deal happened on Saturday, I think. The Broussard deal happened on Thursday, I believe, before the deadline. So, those were 2 big moves that didn't happen on deadline day. But it was kind of quiet leading up to the actual deadline. But as soon as that deadline hit and all those trades started coming in, it was about typical for your deadline day.
yeah. All right. Well, good stuff, man.
Yep.
Should be interesting. Obviously, everybody's making the push for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's It's actually crazy because this is the most first round picks that have moved in the deadline since I think '08. They said.
Oh, really?
Because I mean, you had Winnipeg, Nashville, Vegas, Tampa, Pittsburgh, and Boston all gave up their first round picks for this year.
Hmm. Interesting.
So I mean, those are that many teams that are going all in to make a push for the cup. So
Right, right.
I think we're gonna have really entertaining playoffs this year. I think there are a lot of really good teams in the league right now, and I think the only division that doesn't, look to be a pretty entertaining race is probably the Pacific, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah, we'll have an episode where we make our actual, you know, predictions and whatnot. But if you had to ask me right now, I think I would say West. You're looking at Nashville and Vegas, and
yeah,
East Tampa, Pittsburgh. But as we know, anything can happen. So,
hmm
um, all right, man, we'll wrap this one up. As always, thanks for all your information. Thanks to
absolutely.
everyone for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment. Thumbs up or down, depending on how you feel. Comment, tell us how you feel. Also, make sure you keep an eye out for our weekly, well, sometimes weekly, depending on if we can get in the same room. Podcast about video games called the Console Space Podcast. Yeah, dude, like I said, we will do it again next week.
Sounds good, man.
All right, talk to you then, man.
Yep, have a good one.
You too.